Hey, my name is Felipe and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to show you how to make an entire face attendance web application. This is exactly the project in which we are going to be working today. We are currently looking at my webcam, so hi! And these are all the different buttons, all the different functionalities of this web application, of this face attendance system. You can see we have a login button, we also have a logout button, we have an admin section in which we can register a new user, or we can also download all the logs from this face attendance system. So now let me show you super quickly how it works. I am going to go to the admin section and I'm going to register myself into this system. So I'm going to look at the camera and I'm going to smile. And this is an amazing picture, I'm just going to put my name, Felipe, and I'm going to accept. Now I'm going to try to log in into this system, so I am going to look at the camera, I'm going to smile again, and you can see I get a welcome back Felipe. Now I'm going to try to log out, so I'm going to do exactly the same, look at the camera and smile. And I get a goodbye Felipe. So everything seems to be working properly. And now let me show you something else. If I go back to the admin section and I download the logs, you can see I'm downloading a file, and if I open this file you can see I have two entries, which are the two entries I have just generated. I have the in, which is at this exact time, and the logout, which was made at this exact time. And this is exactly the project in which we are going to be working today. This is exactly the web application, the face attendance system in which we are going to be working. This is working 100% with Python and React, and I'm going to show you the entire process of setting up this app up and running in a public IP or in a local host if you prefer. So this is going to be an amazing video, and let's get started. So this is the repository we are going to use in today's tutorial. I'm going to give you a link to this repository in the description of this video, so if you click on that link you are going to see exactly the same repository I am showing you now. You're going to find a very comprehensive README containing absolutely every single step you have to take in order to execute this code, in order to set up this web app up and running. You are going to see absolutely everything you have to do in order to set up the backend and also the front end from this web app. So this is the repository we are going to be using today. Now let me walk you super quickly through the backend and through the front end of this web app, so I can share a few comments and I can tell you a few details regarding these two implementations. Regarding the backend, if I click the main.py, you're going to see this is basically the specification of an API. You have different methods which define an API. You have many different methods, login, logout, register new user, and many different functionalities. And everything that's related to the face recognition, it's basically a copy paste from one of my previous videos where I show you how to make a face attendance system. Actually from two of my previous videos, because I also use exactly the same video, exactly the same code for this other video. So the backend is written in Python, and it's exactly absolutely the same code I used for these two previous videos. And now let me show you the front end. These are a few directories and these are a few files which have absolutely all the code we need in order to execute the front of our web application. And something I think is very important regarding the front, everything is made on React. And remember, I am a computer vision engineer, so I know a lot about computer vision, about machine learning, but I don't really know much about web development. And before starting this project, before starting this tutorial, I knew absolutely nothing, zero. I knew absolutely nothing about React. And I built the entire front of this web application using ChatGPT. That's something that's super important. I'm using ChatGPT a lot for my projects, and I think it's amazing the way I can just build an entire project, an entire web application, or an entire front end using 100% ChatGPT alone. I think that's very impressive, and I think that's very important to say it now. Now, going back to the README file, let me show you, this is the process which we are going to be executing today. This is not going to be a live coding tutorial, right? I'm not going to code this app from scratch in this video. The only thing I'm going to show you is how to set up this web app up and running using servers, using EC2 instances. You can follow along this process using instances, using a server in the cloud, or you can just do it yourself in your own computer. It's going to work anyway. But I'm going to show you the entire process using EC2 instances. So let's get started. Let's see how we can set up this web app up and running in the cloud just now. So the first step is going to EC2 and I am going to launch an EC2 instance. Now we are going to start with the backend. I'm just going to execute every single line in this README file, and I'm going to do it right here with you in this video. So I'm going to name this instance something like web app, something like face attendance web app, and this will be the backend. Okay, something like this will be okay. Then this will be a Ubuntu, and the instance type is t2x large, make it pair, and that's basically all the configuration we need. Yeah, that's basically all. So I'm just going to launch the instance. Remember, I am just going to walk you through absolutely every single step in this README file. So this is the first step. Now I will need to SSH into this instance, and we need to run some commands. So let's do that. So I'm opening a terminal, and I'm just going to execute this command. This is going to be a very fast process, a very quick process, and we are going to complete this tutorial in only a few minutes. In only a few minutes from now, everything will be ready, and we will have our face attendance system web application up and running. Now I'm going to run these 3 commands. I may fast forward this video in some parts because some of these commands will take a lot of time to execute. So it doesn't really make sense to look at me while I'm just waiting for the commands to be executed. Now I'm going to execute this additional command, and I need to copy and paste this, and I need to replace this IP name, right? This is only to show you how straightforward setting up these processes. This is very straightforward, and you will definitely be able to complete it following all the instructions in the README file. So now we need to restart this server, and that's pretty much all for the backend. Now we need to update the security groups. So I go to security group, edit inbound rules, add rule, custom TCP, port 80, and anywhere. Okay. And now everything is pretty much ready. I can just close this tab. I can close this tab too. And that's pretty much all for the setting up the server of our backend. Now we need to launch the application. Now we need to launch this app, so I'm going to execute these additional commands. It may take some time, but while we wait for these commands to be executed, maybe it's a good time to click the like button, right? If you enjoyed this video so far, or if you think you are going to enjoy it later on, remember to click the like button. It's going to help me a lot. It's going to help the channel, and you know how it is. You know how YouTube works. So if you want to click the like button, I will be super appreciated, but only do it if you really enjoy the video. Don't just do it just because it doesn't work that way, right? So now let's continue executing all these commands. And also, while we are waiting for all these commands to complete their execution, maybe I can also remind you to subscribe to my channel if you want to subscribe. Remember, I'm a computer vision engineer, and in this channel I make tutorials regarding computer vision and machine learning, and I also share my experience as a computer vision engineer. So if these are the type of videos you're into, I also invite you to subscribe to my channel, and yeah, and I will be super appreciated too, because it really helps me and the channel a lot. But only if you really enjoy my videos. If you don't, then don't subscribe. Why would you? Anyway, let's just continue. Now I have already completed all these commands. It is just like executing these commands one by one. It's not really interesting. We are not really doing anything so complex. Now the last command I have executed is creating a virtual environment. Now I'm going to activate this virtual environment, And this is important. This is something I have to say. Now we are going to install all the requirements in this virtual environment, but it's very important that we install CMake first. We are going to install this dependency first, and then we are going to install all the additional requirements. This is just the way it works. We have to do it like this because otherwise it may be a little challenging to install the leaf, right? In order to install the leaf, we need to install CMake first. Now let's install the requirements. This is going to take a few minutes too. Okay, now we have completed the installation of all the requirements and we can continue to the next step. And now the only thing we need to do is to launch the app. That's it. If we do something like this, if we execute this command, that's basically all we need to do in order to have this app up and running. But I'm going to do something else, which is I'm going to launch this app, but in another screen. I'm going to do it in another screen so I can then let me do it first and then I can just explain it. If I do it in another screen and then I detach from this screen, I can just safely close this terminal and nothing will happen. But anyway, so yeah, it's exactly the same process, but I'm just doing it in another screen. So the web app, the API, the backend is completely up and running. Everything is functional. Let's see if everything is working properly. I'm just going to back to the EC2 dashboard. And then I'm going to copy this URL. Oh, this is from another test I did before. Okay, nothing was found, but if I click docs, you can see that now we are accessing the documentation of the API, right? So this is exactly the API we have just set up. This is the API which is up and running. It's running in this URL and everything is completely ready. It's completely functional and we can just use it from our front end. So we are one step closer to set up the entire system up and running. So you can see that these are all the different functions in this API. We have a login, a logout, registering user, and get attendance logs. And with these 4 functions, we are covering absolutely all the different functionalities we have already implemented in this app. So this is our server, this is our backend, and everything is up and running and everything is ready. So as I have detached from this screen, which is launching the API, I'm just going to exit and nothing will happen. So we can continue with the next step. Now we have to go to the front end, right? Now we have to set up the front end. And remember, this is something you can also do locally. You can just run this app in your local host and everything will work just fine. But I'm going to do it in an EC2 instance, so everything is a little more generic. And yeah, and you can make completely sure that you can reproduce absolutely every single step in this process. And we don't have any problem regarding different requirements or different OS or different computers and so on. You just follow along this tutorial running absolutely all these different steps in an EC2 instance and you will be able to execute this process. Now I'm going to start doing exactly the same process as I did before, but now I'm going to launch a T2 large instance. So I'm going back here. Something I'm going to do is to copy and paste this name because it will be very helpful when I'm creating this new instance. I can just do this and replace backend for frontend. Okay, now this will be an Ubuntu instance, the same as before. The instance type will be a T2 large. It doesn't really matter which type you use. It doesn't really matter which instance type you use. It's going to work anyway. Pretty much, I think it's going to work pretty much the same in absolutely all the instance types, but I'm just going to launch it in the T2 large. But please do it in other instance types because it should work the same way. So now let's go to instances. This is the instance we have just launched, and now I'm going to SSH into this new instance. And now I will go back here. Okay, now we have to repeat the same commands we did at first. So I'm just going to run these 3 commands. This is the first one. Then we need to install nginx. And then we also need to create this file, but now we have to do it a little different. There's a very small difference, is that we need to specify another port because we are going to launch this app in the port 3000. So this is exactly the port we need to specify. That's a very small adjustment we have to do regarding the other case, which we were launching the app in the port 8000. So now that's a little different. Now let's copy the IP for this new instance. I'm just going to save all changes. Let's go back. And now I have to execute this command, which is restarting the server. I have to update the security groups the same way we did before. And then we need to edit inbound rules. And this is where we are going to do exactly the same as we did before. Custom TCP port 80 from anywhere. Okay, save rules. And that should be enough. Now let's go back here, and the only thing we need to do is to move to this part, which is launching the app, to setting up this app up and running by cloning the repository and so on. So I'm just going to copy the first sentence. We are just going to execute everything once at a time, and this is how we're going to do it. I'm now cloning the repository. And now we are going to use the other directory, the front-end directory. So I go to front-end, and we need to install npm. We don't really need to install the Python. We don't really need to install Python-related packages, but npm will be enough. So now after this installation is done, we need to run npm's install. And that's what we are going to do. And now we are going to wait a few seconds until everything is completely executed. This may take a few minutes actually, because we are installing many different packages. We are setting all the React related environment up and running. So this may take a few minutes. And after everything is set up, the only thing we need to do left is just running this app. We just need to execute this additional command and everything will be ready. There's something else we need to do, which is making a very small edit in one of the files. Let me show you, because it's going to take a few minutes. So maybe, it's ready. Okay. So the only thing we need to do is to run this command, but let me show you the edit we are going to do. We are going to go to frontend as src. We are going to take this file and we are going to edit this value. We are going to edit this variable, because this is the API, the backend API we are going to use in our web application. So we definitely need to update it to the the IP of the server we just launched. So that's something we have to do. So let's go back to the README file. And before launching this last step, I'm going to src API JS, and I will take the IP of my backend instance. And I'm just going to say something like this: HTTP and this value. Okay, that should be enough. I'm just going to exit, and now we can execute the last command and let's see if it works. But I'm going to do it the same way as I did before. I'm going to create a new screen and I'm going to do it here. Okay. Let's see if it works. Okay, so everything seems to be ready. So I'm going to detach of this screen and I'm just going to exit the server because I don't need it anymore. And what I'm going to do now is just go into the IP of the front end server, and that should be all we need to do in order to access our web application. Let's see if it works. So I'm just going to this value. And you can see that we are seeing exactly the front end of our web application, but there's something missing. There's like a very small thing we need to adjust, which is we're not really seeing the webcam, which is the most important thing in this web app. So the way we are going to fix this issue is by following the last instruction, which is this is going to depend on the browser you are using, but if you use Chrome, this is how you have to do it. I'm going to show you how to fix this issue by using Chrome, but if you use Firefox or any other web browser, it's going to be slightly different. So I'm just going to access this address, and here in this setting I'm going to copy and paste this IP, and that should be enough. This is related to the fact we are using a not secure connection, right? This is an HTTP connection. This is not an HTTPS. This is not a secure connection. So by default, the browser usually blocks all the different devices, the webcam, the microphone, absolutely everything. Then that's basically for a matter of security, and it makes a lot of sense because we should not be accessing these devices and sending this data through the internet if we are in a connection which is not secure. It makes perfect sense, and that's something we have to disable if we want to use this app using an HTTP server. So that's pretty much all. You can see now it's asking me to look at my camera, to have access to my camera, and that's pretty much all. So we have set up this web application. Now you are looking at this web server, which is live on this IP address. We have launched the backend in another EC2 instance. Now we are looking at the front end from another server which we have launched in another EC2 instance. So the only thing I have to do now is to show you all the different functionalities to make sure everything works as expected and everything is up and running and everything is just fine. So now let's test this app. Let's see if it works. So what I'm going to do now is to register myself into this system, because remember, we have just launched this app. So it's completely empty, the database is completely empty. I'm going to register myself, so I'm going to look at the camera, I'm going to smile, and I think that's an amazing picture. That's a very good picture. So I'm going to put my name, Felipe, and I'm going to accept. Now I'm going to try to log in into this system. Let's see if it works. So I'm going to look at the camera and I'm just going to press the login button. Welcome back, Felipe. Everything seems to be working just fine. And now I'm going to try to log out. Let's see what happens. So I press the logout button, looking at the camera, and I get a goodbye, Felipe. So everything seems to be working just fine. And I'm also going to test this system with these two pictures, which are exactly the same pictures I used in one of my previous videos where I show you how to implement a spoofing detector, a liveness detector. So let's see if it works with these two images. Obviously, I haven't implemented this liveness detection on this project, so we are just going to be able to register these pictures as if they were real persons, real pictures. So I'm just going to put the name, which is data. And then I'm going to do exactly the same with Morpheus, which is the other picture I have over here. So I'm going to try to avoid the glare. I'm going to register a user, and the user's name is Morpheus. I'm going to accept, and that's pretty much all. Now let's see if I can log in these two pictures, these two other people. If I press the login button, I get welcome back, Morpheus. So everything is working properly. And I'm going to try to do the same with data, and I get welcome back, data. So everything works super well. So remember, these are the pictures I used in my previous videos on how to implement a liveness detection. I obviously have not implemented this liveness detection on this web application, so that's why I was able to register and to log in and log out these pictures of people. But that's a very good homework for you, because if you want to watch my previous videos on how I implemented this spoofing detector, you can just go ahead and to add a new functionality, a new feature on this face attendance web app, and you can just implement the liveness detection yourself for this project. That will be a very good homework for you. So that's going to be all for today. My name is Felipe. I'm a computer vision engineer. If you enjoyed this video, I invite you to click the like button, and I also invite you to subscribe to my channel. In this channel, I make tutorials, coding tutorials, where I show you different projects and different applications using computer vision and machine learning, and I also share my experience as a computer vision engineer. So if these are the type of videos you are into, I invite you, and you are super welcome to subscribe to my channel. So that's going to be all for today, and see you on the next video.